Okay, welcome back everyone. Let's take a look now at the Module 4 Individual Negative Business Communicative Element Assignment. Again, I mentioned that this was a communique, and I did not mention specifically what type of a format you will use. Is it going to be an email, a letter, or a memorandum? And quite frankly, that's something you'll have to determine down the road. But let's go ahead and take a look at the see what you could do. We'll do an analysis and evaluation of it now, and I will provide one of many potential rewrites. At least you'll be able to see what it looks like. So let's go ahead and take a look. Again, this is the situation. I'm not going to spend a whole or really any time reviewing it. We've looked at it. The premise of this is you are the owner of a business complex. You have individual suites where individual small companies rent from you, and they rent these suites. Now you have one tenant who has been with you for a long time, 15 years, Mr. Vasquez, and he has recently contacted you complaining about a new tenant, a Mr. Smith, who I believe is a floor below him, and who's making loud noise and making it very difficult for Mr. Vasquez to do his job. And now Mr. Vasquez in general wants you to evict this person because of this noise concern. You know that you cannot evict the person, at least not initially evict a person. There's obviously steps that need to be followed, and there are legal ramifications if you do that. So what you are going to have to do is take a look at the situation, come up with an alternative, and away you go. So that's, again, is basically the situation. So let's take a look specifically at some of the communiques. First of all, you are going to write Mr. Vasquez a letter. Now, why a letter? Some people say, well, he's in your building. Is he not therefore then part of your organization? Well, the question, or the answer is no. Just because you rent or you are in physically in somebody's building does not mean you belong to that organization. If you rent an apartment, you do not belong to the organization. You are just a customer of the apartment complex. And the same thing goes here with Mr. Vasquez. He is leasing a suite, an office suite from you, and therefore is not an employee, not part of the organization, and you will therefore write a letter versus a memo. Could you have written an email? Certainly you could have, but since we are dealing with something here that can be potentially difficult, I would urge you not to use email and either go with the written letter or the memorandum. And again, in this case, we are going with a letter. All right. Next, you remember the logical flow of a negative message. So we need to evaluate the original and determine what we can and cannot be included in a rewrite. So you have to look at the situation based on what you know. What can you keep? What can't you use? And away you go. Now again, negative messages are always short. Now what do I mean by short? Certainly, one page is more than adequate to provide a bad news message to someone, either in a memorandum or a letter, or for that matter, an email situation. Just provide them with what they need to know and limit the amount of fluff. Now, yes, you will be using fluff because you have to tone down the situation. You have to help neutralize the negative aspects that are going on. So there is some degree of fluff. But again, short, relative to the point, and again, most importantly, never use negative terms. No, not, can't, won't, whatever the case might be. Always say what you will do, can do, not what you won't do, can't do. All right, so take a look. Again, this is, again, the situation. Now, as I've done in other ones, I'm going to go green with the stuff that we can certainly consider. We don't have to use it all, but we can certainly consider, and red for what we should not be using. And on this screen, you can see we can use most of it. Well, just about 99% of it. The only thing we cannot do or comply with is Mr. Vasquez's demand that you immediately evict Mr. Smith, because by law you can't do that. So you have to come up with an alternate solution. And there are a number of solutions you can go with. I gave you 3 possibilities. You can come up with something totally different. In this case, I'm not evaluating your solution or your recommendation. I am looking at how you are presenting it. So let's take a look at possible opening, body, and close. All right. We're going to start this letter off with Dear Michael. Now, some people go, well, why not Mr. Vasquez? Shouldn't this be formal, Dear Mr. Vasquez? Well, think about this for a moment. If you've known someone for 15 years, you've had a very good relationship with someone for 15 years, and you start writing to them with their last name, Dear Ms. So-and-so, Dear Mr. So-and-so, that is going to send up red flags right off the bat. After 15 years, you probably have developed a very good rapport. And as you will see in my rewrite, a very good rapport is certainly what has occurred. And you can start with the person's first name. I'm sure you've called him, or I've called him, or you have called him Michael many, many times over the last 15 years. Don't start backtracking. Dear Michael would be ideal here. Now, if you've only known the person for a week or two or a month or possibly even less than a year, Dear Mr. Vasquez might be appropriate. Again, the situation will determine. Take a look at the opening. A possible opening. It has been a pleasure having you as a tenant in my office building for the last 15 years. The friendship we have developed during this time has been most rewarding. Again, we are not front-loading this. We are not coming right out and saying, got your letter, got your correspondence, yeah, I know you want to evict this guy. Absolutely not. We want to start with something neutral or positive. We want to bring down the anxiety, the intensity of the issue. And this is a perfect opportunity, since you have known him for 15 years, to say it's been a pleasure working with him or having him as a tenant for 15 years. And most likely, if you've known someone for 15 years, you probably have developed a friendship. Bring that in. These are very positive things. What about the body? Take a look at a possibility. As you have experienced, I provide all of my tenants equal opportunities to conduct their businesses. Again, whatever the solution is or the recommendation that you plan to do, the individual needs to know that this would be the same for anyone and everyone. And you are saying that, I'm saying that in this first sentence. Okay? I've been fair with all of my tenants. I've been fair with you. You've known 15 years. State it. Now let's get into a more legal reasoning. And then to support that, we say, additionally, Chicago Statute 123.45b restricts what initial actions I can take without providing my tenant due process. All right? You're not saying here what you can't do, it's what you can do. Okay, so we're not being really negative here. We're just providing more legal support for why you cannot evict him offhand. All right. While, now the next sentence, while the statute limits what I can do with regards to your situation, there's the no, without saying no. Okay, it says you have limits, which means you have options. It's not black or white, there's gray. So with the statute, while the statute limits what I can do with regards to your situation, I do have options to ensure that all tenants are able to conduct their business without undue interference. So you are not only bringing in Mr. Smith here, you're bringing in Mr. Vasquez and everybody else in the building, and you have options to make sure that everyone is satisfied. Now, I'm going to propose one. In this case, I'm going to propose a possibility. I am proposing that Mr. Smith limits the music auditions to a time frame based on consensus of all the other tenants to be determined at the next tenant meeting. So here we go. You're proposing something. You're proposing a limitation to Mr. Smith. You haven't really set up a time. You could set up a time, I suppose. You could say after 3 p.m. or something. It really doesn't matter. But you could set it up. But what you're doing here is saying, I'm not going to be the one who's going to make it. I'm going to propose it. But all of the other tenants, by consensus, are going to agree upon it. So everyone will live by it. If you've all agreed upon it, everyone will live with it. All right. Closing. Again, we're done. I've made the recommendation. I've made the suggestion. I don't want to go back, talk any more about it. Closing. Michael, first name again, thanks again for your unwavering support. I look forward to many more years of our working relationship and friendship. To bring it back, which you said in the opening, repeating it down here, ending it with a positive note. Okay. Now, could you have included other stuff? Absolutely. But in this case, Mr. Vasquez is going to be, it's going to be highly unlikely that he's going to have a big problem with this letter. Okay? Because there's nothing negative about it. I'm telling him no, can't, won't. And I am telling him what we can do, and we're all going to work on it, come up with an equitable situation, a solution to it. Now, how would this look in a final form? Let's take a look. I've thrown in a letterhead. As you can see, I got Chinatown Business Plaza up at the top. I have all the basic information, address, email, website, and a phone number. Up here, March 7th, 2020, got the date. I have a couple extra lines because what I want to do is balance. I want to balance the whole letter so it fits the page nicely. I don't want extra space in the bottom, but I want it to fit the page so the visual of it is pleasant or appealing, for lack of a better term. So Mr. Michael Vasquez, CPA. This is the inside address, 1234 State Street, Suite 322, Chicago 60666. Dear Michael, opening the letter that we've seen at the body and conclusion. Okay. And then sincerely, you'll notice I have my formal name typed, Anthony Cordy, owner, but I've signed it Tony because we've got 15 years of a friendship. I'm not going to start signing it with my middle name. That's a little strange, so Tony will be just fine here. Now, what I've done is put a CC down here because I did mention, and I noticed here in the letter, this letter version, I did mention a little more information that I did in the previous slide, but I did mention specifically the meeting date, Friday, March 11, 2022. And I've also then put a CC, a copy of this letter, in the tenant meeting file. Now, every time you're going to have a meeting or some kind of assignment or something, you're going to have a file. Electronic, hard copy, doesn't matter. You're going to have a working file with all the data you need. So to ensure that I do get this on the agenda for that meeting, I put a carbon copy in the tenant's meeting file. Now that would be the file that corresponds to the meeting coming up on Friday, March 11. That way I will not, though I certainly probably wouldn't, but highly unlikely or nearly impossible that I will forget to have this part of the agenda. So that's how it would look. Okay. Anyways, if you have any questions, as always, you know what to do. Give me a call and or an email, and we'll take care of whatever the issue you've got. Thanks. Have a great day, and we'll talk later. Bye.